Welcome, everyone. And this will be recorded for posterity. And I'm so thrilled to welcome both Ellen Thomas and Hideko Tamura, who are in disarm. And I'm just going to let them talk about themselves and their visit. The main thing is that they just got back from attending the 80th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So I'll let you both take it away. And maybe, I'll let you decide. So Ellen and Hideko, you just decide how you want to speak and everything. I'll let you do that. Thank you.
That should tell you.
I just noticed I forgot to put my teeth back in. It was the most remarkable experience for me to go back. Japan has changed since the last time I was there, a great deal. I was back there last time 10 years ago, and within that short time, more high, rise buildings increased. I didn't recognize where I saw Tokyo and all the other places, as well as there is my granddaughter. That's when they were doing a lantern float, evening of August 6th, they always float lantern with your wishes and relating to those who preceded us. The first picture is my granddaughter and my daughter. And the second one, my granddaughter, I guess that is a river called the Ota River. And of course, you recognize the dome. They fixed it up so, they wouldn't lose the dome. But right after the bomb, it was just sort of like the frame showing. It wasn't anything like that because, of course, I could go in and out, and to a child who didn't understand what happened and yet lost her universe, that place symbolized just walking in through the gravel, sit on top of one of those exposed iron structures and wonder, keep on asking, what happened here? What in the world is this all about? My journey, affected by the loss of my universe by the bombing, began in that dome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for showing us and talking to us. Okay, Ellen?
Yes, I have a bunch of things here, as you can see at the top. I wanted to let you know about the women in WILPF Hiroshima that we met with. This lovely lady, Tanyo Noriko, invited us into her home. This is my granddaughter, Emma, my daughter, Katie, who is a photographer and who took a bunch of pictures. I'll show you some in a little bit. And this is Tanyo playing an ancient instrument. I thought I recorded it, but somehow or another I lost it, and I felt really bad because it was quite an experience. And this was the day we got to Hiroshima. They had a fabulous dinner for us, and in Tanyo's home. And then 3 days later, after a special women's meeting at the World Conference against the 2025 80th anniversary World Conference against A&H bombs. And these were all WILPF women from all over the world. This lady here is Yoko Nishimura, and she lives in Hiroshima, but she lived in the United States for quite a while, so she felt comfortable with us, and she volunteered to transport us anywhere we wanted to go while we were there. And she took Katie and Emma to some beautiful sites, and she got us where we needed to go, and I'm very grateful to her. I was hoping that she might join us, but she wasn't able to do it. And what I went for and brought my daughter and granddaughter for was the World Conference Against A&H Bombs, which I've been to several times before. It's a very powerful experience. This is the program that, let me enlarge it, that it starts out with international meetings with people from all over the world. And then it moves to large venues where the international people are given seats up front, and the rest of the gymnasium gets filled with Japanese people. In Nagasaki, we had 3,200 people in the gymnasium on Nagasaki Day, August the 9th. And my granddaughter was invited to speak, and not to give a big speech, but to sit at the table on the stage and help to introduce people. And she introduced quite a few people, and I wanted to share with you what she said when she introduced herself. So let me share, because what she's saying is that she is a student representing Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And it was quite wonderful that she did that. Share sound, optimize, okay.
I'm here thanks to my grandmother, Ellen Thomas, and my mother, Catherine Walters, standing now
So she gave introductions. This was a singing group, but she gave introductions for people like, well, I was there, Anne Wilcox, and the ambassador of Mexico to Japan. And I have those two up here because, and here is Nino Bernat. Nino, I can't announce her name, but she was a student organizer with Peace Action New York, and she was very involved, and she and Emma did things together. And I brought Emma and Katie there because I wanted to light a fire in them about getting rid of nuclear weapons. And I have talked about it, and I've provided them with materials, but they're busy people. So I figured if I took them to Japan, they would have an opportunity to actually see pictures of what happened, hear the stories from the aged survivors, and it really, really was an effective way to communicate with them. I've put together some pictures from the trip that I'll show you here. Can you see it? Are you here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see.
I don't see you, and that's okay. So this is the Hiroshima Dome, and there were signs along the fence as we got there on the 2nd. We went past it in a taxi, and you'll see more of that later. This is what the city looked like from our 5th floor room in a guest house in Hiroshima. This was the international meeting, the first day of the international meeting. This is Norio Okada, who was a journalist for Akahata in Washington, D.C. when I was out in front of the White House many years ago. And he's now retired and doing other things, important things related to journalism. This is Anne Wright and Nobue Kugamaya and Shushi Kajimoto. Those two are from Kobe, and they have been to Washington, D.C. and New York with me many times, and I have been with them 6 times. One time I went with them to Vietnam, another time I went with them to New Zealand, so we're very good friends. And it was so wonderful to see Anne Wright there, and she was one of the speakers. The lady on the left is with Code Pink in Osaka. So there's a Code Pink in Osaka. They had a Don't Bank on the Bomb banner there, and there was a speaker that I haven't yet gotten up on YouTube, but I'm going to add. He spoke in English, which is nice. I'm putting up only the ones that spoke in English because we don't speak Japanese, but I'm going to make that available, those available to everybody in WILPF somehow. This is Emma with one of the workers for Gansikyo, which is the Council Against ANH Bombs, and this is my daughter, Katie, and those two and several other young Japanese people got together and went out together, and they spent quite a bit of time together, and he didn't speak good English, and Emma was trying to learn Japanese, but they had their little translators there that were very efficient, and we used them a lot too. And here we are on August the 6th, which was the 80th anniversary of the Hiroshima bombing at the Peace Dome. Katie's signing a petition to ban nuclear weapons. And there were signs about Gaza and Free Congo. There was particular strength having to do with Gaza. And I think maybe some of the people in Hiroshima thought that it was not appropriate to have the Gaza banner up on that particular day, but it was tolerated by those, and there were others who, of course, thought it was a very good idea. Here we are waiting for the sun to go down so we can see the candle float. Here we are in Nagasaki, and I don't know if you're aware, but Abolition 2000, after Chernobyl, declared that sunflowers were their symbol of nuclear abolition, because after Chernobyl, some scientists planted a mat on top of a open tank of water that had been irradiated, and the sunflowers sucked the radiation up. And they were able to dispose of them as solid waste. So I don't eat sunflower seeds anymore. This is a tram in Nagasaki that I went back and forth to the Japan rail station to make sure I had tickets to get to Kobe. And there's a funny story about that, which if we have time, I'll tell you. This is the Spectacle Bridge in Nagasaki, which is very beautiful. And this was a cat shrine. This was another shrine in Kyoto. We spent one day in Kyoto. There are 187 temples and 80-some shrines in Kyoto.
There were like 700 shrines. No, 700 temples and 1,200 shrines.
Oh, is that
or
right?
something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
it was like 1,200 shrines and 700 temples.
Okay,
So,
all right. You're better at numbers.
Yeah, crazy.
So this was the Nagasaki gymnasium where there were 3,200 people, and these orange seats here that are empty were going to be filled by the international visitors. And there's Emma up on the stage, and this is what it looked like with the speaker. There's another picture of, and then this was when friends came to send us off to the airport on the airport bus in Kobe on the last day we were there, which was the 13th. and we're on the bus. And this was a flyer that was produced for this event, which shows a picture of me at our signs in front of the White House in 1994, after Eleanor Holmes Norton introduced the bill that we all know about, and that's HR 1888 this session. And with respect to that, I'm going to play this.
Thomas is an indefatigable nuclear abolition figure in the United States. So,
Hello, dear friends. I won't take much time, but I want to bring you up to date. As you know, I have been coming to tell you about a bill in the United States Congress ever since 1994, when it was first introduced. And it has been introduced now for the 17th time. It is called the Nuclear Weapons Abolition and Conversion Act. And it is asking the U.S. President to sign the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, and for the United States to abolish all nuclear weapons along with the other nuclear powers, and to use the money that's saved instead for carbon-free, nuclear-free energy, environmental restoration, and other human needs. There are 9 co-sponsors on the new bill, HR 1888, and if you are from the United States, please help get your congressperson to endorse this bill, and ask your senators to introduce it into the Senate. It's been sitting in committee for 31 years, and we need to get it out of committee and to the floor for a vote. Now, President Trump actually doesn't like nuclear weapons because you can't make money from land that has been bombed. So we are actually asking Republicans to sign on to this bill too, for the first time. So I just wanted to bring you an update. I love you all. It's so good to see you again. Hey, you are. And Katie has provided us with a bunch of pictures that she took. And I'm just going to scroll down this page slowly so you can get a sense of it. It looks like Emma isn't too happy there. This is the Japan Rail train. This was in Maiko, which is outside Kobe. It was a beautiful spot. And
Hello,
this,
Tammy.
yeah, is Emma there? Is that
No.
No. So let me just scroll down here. This was an interesting place that they went to. Katie, you want to tell them about that?
I forget the name of the island. It's like a holy island. Like there's shrines and temples and everything on the island, but the deer are pretty tame there, and they're all over the place. They just come right up to you. They're in the streets. They're everywhere. So it was pretty neat.
That's Yoko. What was this?
Those are prayers. Those are prayers, basically, or wishes. I don't know if they're wishes or prayers, but they are at the shrine.
Hi, Tammy. Tammy.
Yes.
Emma, is that you? Huh, that's weird.
What was this?
That's a fishery when we came back over, and so it was like on the Kobe side of the ferry. So those are all oysters, and these are some kids that were it was a band that was playing at the Hiroshima ceremony on August 6th. And that's you signing that petition. And this was a tour guide that was explaining
We were
you
at the
know, what happened.
Hypocenter there. He took us over to the Hypocenter. He spoke good English and he gave a very dramatic explanation of what was going on. Somehow or another, I lost a lot of those videos. This is a very delicious thing to eat. What was it called? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. Emma could tell us, but
Oh.
I'm terrible with the Japanese words, but
So we were over there by the dome for the candle float. And I believe that Hideko, you were on the other side.
Listen,
Yeah.
for the sake of preservation, they built up the dome with concrete. We were able to see the steel structures. It wasn't anything like that. It was much more bare.
Yeah.
And I used to go in and out trying to figure out what in the world happened in the city as a child. There was no barricade around it, and there were no concrete like that. Just a bare steel. And for the preservation, they reinforce those things, and it doesn't look anything like what it was when the bomb hit.
I recommend that people do some research and look at some of the old pictures. I will provide, when I send out links, I will provide links to really good information about both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah, the one thing that I noticed over there was that they left the rubble inside as it was. And this is Noboy, and she's a dear friend. They were studying together. And this was a lovely man from Nagasaki who tried valiantly to help us get a place to stay and to get on the train. And both cases, we ran into difficulties that were kind of funny. And I can talk about it some other time. Where was this? This was in Nagasaki. Yeah, this was the Nagasaki harbor. You got that.
if you X out of that, like visit shop place, it'll make the pictures bigger.
How do I do that? That?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
Thank you. Oh, and this was fun. I'm going to try to get this up online. It's a great song that sung in English, and they sang it in both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it was quite delightful. This man here was an Egyptian ambassador.
So what was the song about? Was it about the bomb?
It was about how we can all live together happily. It was great. It was wonderful.
Oh, good. That's
Very happy song. Yeah. So let me see. We've seen that. I particularly want to introduce you to the ambassador of Mexico to Japan, Melba Priya. She was amazingly good speaker, and I have put this up. If everybody's willing to listen, it's 5 minutes long, 5.5 minutes long. Is that okay?
Is she speaking in English?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
私はメイバプリアです。メキシコの大地です。でも今日は私は長崎人です。Distinguished guests, dear friends and fellow advocates of peace, I am honored to be here in homage of the Japanese people at the 80th anniversary of one of the most tragic and dark episodes in human history. I will start by recognizing the tireless work and courage of the Hirakushas, of the civil society organizations, activists, young people, elderly people, and the members of Genshuko, all of whom have bravely raised their voices, sharing their painful testimonies. Mexico celebrates and honors the international recognition of Nihon Hidankyo, finally awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize of 2024. With one of the most powerful calls for peace, we must make sure that the message reached all future generations until the last nuclear warning is destroyed. The atrocities caused by the atomic bombing in Nagasaki and Hiroshima were not just tragedies of the past. They are warnings for the present and for the future. They remind us that any further nuclear detonation would have devastating consequences. There would be no capacity in the world to deal with a catastrophe of such magnitude. Mexico will not cease in its efforts to place nuclear disarmament at the highest level of the global agenda, and will continue inviting states to advance multilateral negotiations and comply with every aspect of the disarmament regime. Mexico is fully convinced that it has the invaluable support of civil society in spreading this message, and thus continue to demand accountability from all states, particularly those that possess these types of weapons. There can be no justifications for weapons that have the capacity to destroy our entire civilization. As I said before, there is no responsible use of nuclear weapons. There is no safe nuclear bomb. The only true security lies in the complete elimination of these weapons. Mexico strongly condemns global military spending in light of the reduction in official development assistance. I am here today to echo the criticism and reiterate that for Mexico it is totally inconceivable and unacceptable that there are more than 12,500 nuclear weapons. Their continued existence in the world is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of failure. Failure to prioritize life, dignity, humanity, and humanity needs more resources for development, not war and destruction. We will continue. We will continue to look for avenues to strengthen our international commitments of disarmament and support the objective of TPAM. Therefore, I am proud to share that several Mexican scientists are members of the scientific advisory and independent panels mandated to report on the situation and progress in the field of nuclear disarmament. Nuclear weapon possession, as well as the potential risk and the humanitarian consequence of their use, and the related issues at the local, regional, and global level. We look forward to the panel's final report, which will be published in 2027 if we still exist. Mexico wishes to reiterate once again its conviction and historic commitment that it will continue to work to achieve and maintain a world free of nuclear weapons, just as it was before August 1945. We must stop accepting the idea that nuclear weapons are necessary. They are not. I say again, they are not. That the world truly needs is investment in education, in healthcare, in clean energy, in justice, not in building machines of death. possible. It is the only way forward. ありがとうございます。
Okay,
Very good. Woo.
yeah. And I'd like to finish with Ann Wright, who is a WILF member and a dear, dear friend, and we all know her. Colonel Ann Wright was is in Veterans for Peace. She was, after she retired, she joined the State Department, and she resigned from the State Department because of Iraq and joined Code Pink, and has been part of their actions ever since, which that was in 2002. Code Pink came to Lafayette Park, where I had been since 1984. And since they were there, I felt like I could take my signs in and manage the Peace House rather than sit out in front of the White House anymore. And that was the end of my vigil. So she's a dear friend of mine, and I'd like to play her speech because she's terrific.
And she also had the moral insight and courage to resign from the U.S. Foreign Ministry over the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Prepare yourself for the privilege to hear one of the leading and most courageous U.S. peace activists.
Thank you very much, Joseph. And it's a real honor to be here and have this opportunity to speak to everyone here at the World Conference Against Atomic and Hydrogen Bombs. I bring you greetings and solidarity from the civil society movement in the United States, which has been working diligently for our nuclear-free world. And as this is a commemoration of the horrific deaths and woundings of hundreds of thousands of people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki 80 years ago, in 1945, as an American citizen again, I offer my profound apologies for the criminal actions of my government in using these weapons of mass destruction, and apologies to the Japanese, the Koreans, the Marshall Islanders, the downwinders in the United States, the Vietnamese for the Agent Orange and unexploded ordnance, and for the Palestinians that the U.S. is contributing with the Israeli genocide of Gaza. And that's why I have the kafia up here to say we have to stop the genocide. Apologies to the translators, but I'll just mention something else. I'm part of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla that has had 3 boats this year trying to break the Israeli naval blockade of Gaza. And the last one, we just now have our 21 persons on the Handala boat have finally all now gotten back to their homes, most of whom were in Israeli prison for several days. I acknowledge that the horrific weapons that were used to kill and maim innocent civilians as a strategy to end the war that was a brutal, reckless, and without any sense of humanity. 80 years later, we now know the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the testing of the terrible weapons in Nevada in the United States, in the Marshall Islands, in the Russian Federation, in Aurora, in French Polynesia, in Australia, and in Algeria, have resulted in the legacy of genetic medical conditions for the generations that have followed those who were initially exposed to the radiation emanating from the testing of these nuclear bombs. Most of the test sites were in the lands of indigenous peoples and far from the capitals of the testing governments. Large swaths of land remain radioactive and unsafe for habitation even decades after the test sites were closed. And yet, 80 years later, we're still battling our governments as governments continue to spend trillions of dollars to, quote, improve, upgrade, and modernize these weapons that have been banned by the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons when it was open for signature in the UN in 2017 and entered into force in 2021. We know the statistics that by the end of 2024, now this has changed from where that a total of 94 nations have signed the TPNW, but only 73 have signed and ratified the treaty. There are currently 21 signatory countries that have not signed, that have signed but not ratified the TPNW, countries in which their citizens must put pressure on their governments to get that treaty signed. Citizen pressure must be put on, and that these countries, that 44 countries oppose the country, including the 9 nuclear weapons countries: the US, Russian Federation, France, UK, China, India, Israel, North Korea, and Pakistan. 15 other nations are undecided on whether to accept or reject the treaty. In the United States, we have cities and states that are saying no to nuclear weapons. The state legislators out of, well, only 5 of the 50 states of the United States, California, Oregon, New Jersey, Maine, and Rhode Island, have passed resolutions in support of the TPNW. 5 large counties, which are almost like states, have passed resolutions in support of the TPNW, including the city and county where I live in Honolulu, Hawaii, Aloha, as well as the city and county of San Francisco and 2 counties in Maryland next to Washington, D.C. Dozens of cities across the United States, including Boston, Los Angeles, New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C., have also appealed to the U.S. government to sign and ratify the TPNW. In 2021, New York City resolved to pursue the divestment of public funds from nuclear weapons makers in response to the TPNW's entry into force. Now, let's go to the Japanese-American Congresswoman Jill Takuda, who is a co-sponsor of Stop the Nuclear Arms Race resolution. In 2025, in the House of Representatives of the U.S. Congress, Congresspersons Jim McGovern and Jill Takuda introduced House Resolution 317, urging the United States to lead the world back from the brink of nuclear war and hail and reverse the nuclear arms race. Unfortunately, the resolution has only 22 sponsors or co-sponsors out of 435. All from the Democratic Party, none from the Republican Party, meaning we, the U.S. citizens, have so much work to do in our Congress. And about House Resolution 317, Jill Takuda, my congressional representative from Hawaii, has said, and she's only one of 4 Japanese-American citizens who are in the U.S. Congress. She stated, "As a Japanese-American, my heritage is deeply tied to the devastating impact of nuclear weapons and the atrocities of war. This resolution is about our moral imperative to achieve nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament. It's not only a call for peace, but a commitment to ensuring that such tragedies are never repeated. And this resolution represents a vital step toward a safer, more just world." And the resolution, and I'll read it because I think it urges my country, the United States, to engage in good faith negotiations with all nuclear armed states, to halt the buildup of nuclear arsenals, and pursue verifiable time-bound reductions. It urges to conclude a nuclear arms agreement with Russia and to engage China on nuclear risk reduction, to renounce the option of using nuclear weapons first, to end the Cold War era hair-trigger posture, to rein in the production of new nuclear warheads and delivery systems, to preserve the moratorium on nuclear testing, to protect radiation-impacted communities and workers through full remediation, compensation, and expanded health care, including an expanded Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, and to plan a just economic transition for workers and communities dependent on the nuclear weapons industry. Now, wouldn't that be wonderful if that got passed? But don't hold your breath. So I will want to send to you all the U.S. organizations that send greetings for the conference. There are a multitude of organizations in the U.S. and around the world that are working for these elimination of nuclear weapons. And we send our greetings to colleagues here in Japan and around the world as we continue our work in the U.S. Congress, in the states, in the cities and counties of the United States. Just to let you know, in June of this year, the Alliance for Nuclear Accountability held its 38th annual DC Days to advocate in the U.S. Congress for safer nuclear weapons and waste policies. It includes 30 organizations concerned with local and national consequences of nuclear weapons and waste policy decisions. During the week of advocacy in the U.S. Congress, meetings were held with 80 Congress members or their staff. And referencing the Trump administration's goal of eliminating waste in the federal government through the draconian measures taken by DOGE, the ANA published a new resource called What About Waste? 80 Years of Nuclear Waste, as a part of this year's effort in the Congress. Another initiative for public awareness in the United States in the bloated U.S. military budget and nuclear weapons program has to do with ice cream. How many of you all have ever had Ben & Jerry's ice cream? Yeah, everybody from the U.S. ought to hold your hand up. Okay. Well, Ben & Jerry in June of this year initiated a $2.3 million two-year advocacy project called Up in Arms. The campaign is to reduce U.S. military spending, particularly on nuclear weapons, to make cutting the Pentagon budget a debate in the 2026 elections, and to bring a national focus on the nuclear dangers and the necessity of armament. So it's good to have the ice cream. There's zinnias in there. I put them in. Another thing that we've heard about today, the International People's Tribunal on the 1945 atomic bombings continues to bring international attention and hopefully justice to the Japanese and Korean victims and survivors of the effects of the horrific U.S. atomic bombs in 1945. And we certainly acknowledge the testimony this morning of our wonderful colleague from Korea. The Lakenheath Peace Camp held in May of 2025 at the U.S. Air Base in Lakenheath, the UK, focused on stopping nuclear weapons being sent again by the United States to be housed on U.S. soil. These are events that have been held all over the United States and Europe. No NATO events were held in June in The Hague, Netherlands, to protest the 5% increase for NATO countries in national spending for their military at the expense of social programs for the people and to alert the world to the dangers of the use of nuclear weapons in any conflict. Following no to NATO was the International Peace Forum in Brussels, Belgium, which focused on the increased militarization in Europe and the necessity of eliminating nuclear weapons. Then, following that, it was a big week in Europe, the annual Stop Ramstein camp and demonstration. It was held in the largest U.S. air base in Europe, Ramstein, which underscored the need to challenge the continuing U.S. dominance in European security issues and the U.S. nuclear arsenal. Another thing that happened, I mentioned before, the Gaza Freedom Flotilla attempted to sail 2 ships in May and June to break the Israeli genocide and the illegal Israeli naval blockade of Gaza, and the complicity of the United States and other countries in the genocide and the refusal of Israel to acknowledge its nuclear weapons. Now, what can we do as individuals? What can we do, civil society individuals? Well, in 2024 and 25, an 81-year-old U.S. citizen, Susan Crane, spent 230 days in prison in Germany for cutting a fence in the Buchel Air Force Base, climbing atop an earthen bunker used to store both nuclear weapons, and for the German Tornado fighter jets to protest the stationing of American nuclear weapons in Germany. And she was in prison for refusing to pay a fine. For 3 decades, she has protested nuclear weapons in the U.S. and Europe. She's poured her own blood on a nuclear destroyer and taken a hammer to warplanes. In total, she said she served around 7 years in prison for challenging nuclear weapons. At Buckel Air Force Base, they trained German soldiers to drop hydrogen bombs on behalf of the United States as a part of NATO's nuclear sharing arrangements. Another person, Susan van Hingen from the Netherlands and Gerd Botzig from Germany, were also put in prison in Germany for similar actions at the airbase. And more, and I'm just talking about U.S. peace activists, because there are lots of peace activists around the world that have been putting themselves on the line. But John LaForge, Dennis Duval, Susan, and Brian Terrell, all longtime Catholic workers and human rights people, work with the Nevada Desert Experience, and Brian served 15 days in a prison south of Cologne, Germany, before actually going into the nuclear bases again. And another citizen solidarity activism in June of this year, Veterans for Peace, of which I'm a member, held a 40-day fast at the United Nations and the U.S. and Israeli missions to the UN in New York City to stop the Israeli genocide of Palestinians in Gaza, as well as for a nuclear-free world. So, as we commemorate the lives lost and damaged by nuclear weapons 80 years ago, we must commit ourselves to work harder for the elimination of these weapons and taking on our own governments and industries that make money from the construction and testing of these weapons of mass destruction. So that's it, and free the world from nuclear weapons. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Hideko, do you have anything that you would like to say? You need to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you for a reminder. I'm sorry. I was amazed by the great respect now paid to those who were lost. I was in the distinguished gift section where all the men were wearing black suits, and it really added to the sovereignty of the event, you know? And they mourned about those lives that were lost and whatnot. However, to me, and my mother was among them who were lost, and I was an only child, and I had never had cared for feeling being nurtured since her loss. But that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is there's more awareness about the unfortunate use of the nuclear weapon on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I don't think people know how they died, however, and I don't think that they know how the survivors whose chromosomes changed and has illnesses going on. It's important for them to be aware of them in order to make the reality brought to you about the ills of the nuclear weapon. You know, within 3.5 minutes, the heat of the radiation put the city in flame. Those of us who crawled out had to deal with the flame to get away from whatnot. I'm not going into any details, and I'd like you to know that I'm going to have my mouth closed. The last sharing I did, the reporter went into grilling and grilling and grilling, and I was sick for a few weeks from that. And I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to stay silent. And you are going to need to decide for yourself what to make sense of it from the witnesses or people who talk about it, debate about it. But the most important part of it is what you do inside of your soul. Seek and ask, what do I make out of this when human beings do this to each other? And that is called war. And basically, you have to go back to thinking about that. And it's probably naive to think we can do away with war. It's been going on from the Stone Age on. And the power that is projected by our leaders is sure to bring the conflict. So what I'm trying to say is, as we gather together like this and look at commemorations 80 years since, I'm almost 92 years old. And my body, I do not have physicality to have gone, except for the kindness of my daughter and family who put me in a wheelchair and carried me through everywhere I went. And every single day I had GI problem. The physicality and the difficulty that goes with witnessing or standing for this today for a survivor is totally beyond any basic comfort. And I'm not, a friend of mine who met me in Tokyo told me she was 1 year behind me in a high school. She said she's made up her mind she's going to live to be 100, and she wanted me to try to do so. Human being has physical limitations, and I do plenty of them. And I've done everything I could in my life to express why nuclear weapons being used on human beings is absolutely unforgivable. I'm sorry you belong to the country that dropped it, and I don't mean to blame you in any way. All right? So please don't take it any, being blamed kind of a way. But the use of power to the extent of Manhattan Project, where the scientist who is supposed to enhance the quality of human existence tried every minute they had thinking how to kill a human life in most miserable way, because we died in the most miserable way. I want you to know it's not your fault, but it's the power use of international foreign policies of the countries. The man that I respect very much and was the head of the educational institution I attended after the war used to come to the United States. And then the minute he mentioned anything about Hiroshima, how absolutely impossible it was, everybody said to him, oh, well, Pearl Harbor, And no one said, we were very sorry what you experienced. That is a mentality of people. So it's up to us to seek within ourselves, what is it I would like to leave this world when I go, different from the time I entered. My father used to say that. Leave it better than when you came into. And he was responsible in clearing corpses in Hiroshima right after. He was in charge of clearing the corpse and trying to make transportation possible and have rescue means, whoever could still be rescued. But it really goes back to the very basic principle of who we want to be as a human being. You know, we come, as in described in Thomas Hobbes, our raw human nature. Other than we come up with a social contract, and we need a very creative and humane, for, if not for anybody else, but for our own soul, who we are and who we can be. And I challenge you, please ask that. And don't pay any attention. We're not asking for any sympathy. We've lived through it already. And I don't think anybody gave me any sympathy, and I wasn't looking for it. So that part is gone and okay. But what this nuclear weapon being used against human beings can do is absolutely beyond imagination. Listening to folks in the Hiroshima's Peace Museum is absolutely nothing. People can't say things. It's all of us who survived it somehow and had to watch it and had to suffer through all the physical effect of the radiation harm. We have experienced it. But your part is who you want to be. Not my own business, but it's your business. How you want to leave the world any different than when you came into. Good luck to you.
Well, thank you so much, Hideko. I'm crying. So I'd like Ellen to take over.
Yeah.
Ellen, could you? You're muted now, Ellen.
I'm crying too.
Oh,
Does anyone have anything that you would like to say or ask?
Well, I was very pleased. There was a great deal of respect for the event at the 80th commemoration I attended, with the help of my daughter and a family carrying me all the way in a wheelchair. So every day I had a GI problem. So I was physically very, very uncomfortable, but I was very surprised. There was much more seriousness among those distinguished guests that we were seated. And the part of that is like, they didn't wear jeans and, t-shirt. They wore black, beautiful men's suit. I never saw a few hundred men in black suit. And it was very impressive. And I felt what we went through was being shown some respect. Yeah, I was very impressed.
The Hiroshima mayor made a very good speech, and I have included in the chat a number of links, and one of them is a video that his office produced. he spoke in Japanese at the event, and there were broadcasts that had the words down below in English, but he actually speaks in English in this video, so I recommend that you watch it. And he speaks up for the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons and for Japan to sign on to it. It was excellent. There's a number of good links there in the chat that I've been collecting since I got back. Oh, look, there's Darian. Yeah. Eileen, you unmuted. Did you have something that you wanted to say or ask?
Yeah, it is very emotional, and the long-term effects are just devastating too. I'm just so surprised and amazed. How do you cover over all that radiation stuff in a city so that it doesn't continue to contaminate people and their lives?
The Hiroshima bomb was uranium, and uranium clears in the air very fast. Although plutonium bomb that was dropped in Nagasaki, they stayed. 30 years after the bomb was dropped, Geiger counter was still clicking.
And people are
Nagasaki.
in there?
Yeah, in a water reservoir of all things. The Geiger was clicking 30 years later. So plutonium stays. It's the cesium, that stayed in, but the Hiroshima was lucky. Lucky. The split atom was from uranium.
Also, it rains a lot there, and there are 6 rivers, so it flowed out to sea in Hiroshima. But I'll bet you.
The uranium created small-headed babies to be born because the women who were pregnant at the time the bomb was dropped, uranium caused deformed babies, small-headed babies. They can't think and function.
Oh dear.
So that was a sort of a special, product from uranium, but it wasn't with plutonium. So there was no small-headed baby born in Nagasaki. But listen, without taking it personally that I'm blaming you at all, because I'm not. Think of the Manhattan Project, the scientists who are supposed to enhance the quality of human life, thought and researched and worked so very hard how to make most miserable way human beings could be killed. That's part of Thomas Hobbes. That we really, really be serious and come up with new social contract, being given in a natural way in raw form. Life is brutish, short, miserable, and nasty. That's how Thomas Hobbes said you got to then come up with a social contract to counteract that. And we certainly do, if we can do this, because on July 19th, nuclear bomb could be put into nuclear weapon they found, and they had to see, not just in the desert in New Mexico or Nevada, on human consequences, how the humans can be killed. And they had to drop it in Hiroshima, uranium kind, and Nagasaki, plutonium. This is our raw form. And then you talk about, 7,000 dead in Pearl Harbor, and people healed from the wound. They lived on with bad memory. But it's equated. Anybody who says, oh, Hiroshima, oh, well, you dropped, you know, you did the Pearl Harbor. This is how we are. And I think before you leave this world, please do whatever you can that you really, really, truly believe to leave it better than when you came in. I did my best. You know, state of Oregon has more Japanese peace trees I brought in from Hiroshima.
Oh,
Yeah. And I didn't really brag to anybody. I kept quiet, but nobody wanted to plant it. Nobody wanted to germinate it. I knocked the door and I walked and walked and walked and walked, trying to find people who will even consider. And I finally did. And from there, I tried to talk and talk and talk, persuade people, you know, hey, how about having a reconciling, you know, little trees growing from Hiroshima and you germinated. And finally, there were a few people who said, okay, we'll try it. And listen, what you are to do probably is just as difficult. But if you don't have in your character vocabulary, giving up, as I never give up if I believed in something, it's possible, absolutely possible, doable, and very, very satisfying. It's one of the, you know, things that when I went back to Japan with the help of a wheelchair, and honestly, sitting on GI product, it was not the most comfortable, but I didn't even think about it. You know, I went everywhere. And the garden from which those seeds came from, there was a camphor tree, big, huge camphor tree that nearly died, but, you know, somehow revived, and the seeds were sent to us, and then SOU greenhouse that I persuaded to germinate. It took a lot of time and doing, honestly, because nobody was interested in doing anything of the kind. Oh, we don't plant any seeds, but you're a nursery. Where do you get your trees? Oh, from other nurseries. Sorry. But I don't give up. That's the only reason I was able to do anything whatsoever. And if you don't give up, there is a humongous, exciting things you will also be able to get done. The world is hopeful. You know, it's not just Thomas Hobbes. It's other folks. Kierkegaard, whoever else, leap of faith. You know, you'll be amazed to see things happen. And from the looks of you, you're much younger than I am, so you have plenty of opportunity. Good luck to you.
Well,
thank you.
thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
I'm so glad you could come on, both of you, and to talk to us about the trip. It's been great. But I do think it might be time for us just to end the meeting because it's getting late. I was going to have a business meeting, but I think that this just overwhelms everything else, and I'm just thrilled with this. So If there's any questions, we could take them, but then I think we should just end the recording. And thank you so much again. So are there any questions of anyone or any comments before we leave?
This will be up on the WILPF US YouTube channel.
Right.
I just
WILPF
want
US.
to appreciate both of you are so very, very inspiring to go out and do the work and not give up. When those low times come, let them sit with them, let them pass and get back out there. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you, Eileen. And M, do you have a question? You have your hand raised. If you can unmute. M. Craig?
Yeah, I
There.
want to thank everybody very much, very, very, very much. And I've tried to put helpful information in the chat. So please look at it or copy it or something. I'm really, really trying to be helpful. Really trying to be helpful. And if I can do something to get a UN treaty passed, let me know what to do. I will try to do it.
Okay, thank you. Because Ellen does save the chats. I think you might send it out to us, or I don't know. Do we send the chat with the recording, or how would we do that?
So Craig, if you would like, if you would like to send an email to disarmchair@wilpfus.org. It's all
Sure.
one
Can you give
word.
me a minute to copy what I put in the chat?
I'll put it in. I'll put it in. Disarm.
Actually, let me see. I think
Okay.
I can, if I click on the three dots, I can save the chat. So if you
Just a
click on the
minute.
three dots at the top right, you can save the chat. But I just
Okay.
changed that. I saved
Well,
that.
Yeah,
So-
save it again because I just put the email in there.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Very nice of
anything,
you.
any questions you have or suggestions, you can write to that.
Yeah, Jim Garrison knows this connection that I'm talking about in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a strong connection here and it may be helpful.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, well, I can't again express my gratitude for our two speakers tonight. Thank you so much, Hideko and Ellen. And thank you all for attending. So
Third Wednesday.
third Wednesday every month, except next month I'll be in Vietnam. Okay, bye.
Save the chat. Any last thoughts, anyone?
I don't know, the things I put in the chat are very relevant and can be helpful. I gotta say.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Hideko. I'm sorry I didn't see you in Hiroshima. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.